All right. Let's get started here with some of the stuff here on Planet X Radio on the Andrew Van Zark podcast. So before we get started, I want to make sure that everything is running smoothly. Let me open the chat here. I'm gonna pop it out so I can make sure that everything is running smooth as butter. So we're gonna have that there, have that there. Uh, Open this over here, and we should be running smooth. Okay, so let me check here. Hel- Hello. I'm on my radio show if you're curious to listen to me. Yeah, well, it's one of those cases where I've mixed so far and I'm considering just changing the drum kit altogether, so will see by the end of the night. Okay. Yeah, sometimes you gotta do that kind of stuff after you started a song. Yeah, but you can have me as background. So before we get started here, I'm just checking out if everything's running perfectly fine. Okay, we're all good. We're all good. So today we're gonna talk that Pixar films make us cry. They sure do, and we're gonna find out why, how, and we're gonna work on the discussing the different scenes that make you feel really emotional when watching a Pixar film or any Pixar short. We can also discuss a few Disney ones too. DreamWorks can be thrown in the way, but we're gonna focus mostly on Pixar. So if you have any scene that makes you cry, no matter how much you watch it, it always makes you burst into tears. Then check me down below on the chat and type in that scene and that makes you cry. So let's get started here with some podcast with the intro. 皆さんこんにちは。ようこそ Andrew and Our Podcast。今を始めましょう。This is your coin. このポッドキャストの情報は私の意見といくつかのインターネット調査です。P.S. The podcast is going to have some information in Japanese, Nihongo, and my opinion in English, Eigo. Now you're listening with power. Alright, let's go listen to the first song of the episode here with our song Dream a Little Dream of Me, Yandere Mode, from my soundtrack, Sound of Ink. Let's go get it. Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark. All right. Let's get started here. So this is an article that I found from Danny D. Palacio. He writes about films, television, pop culture, and other fun stuff. So we're gonna be discussing about Pixar the whole way through. So let's get running here. Let me make sure that my mic is still working. Perfect. Okay, so I want to mention here that Pixar has always been notorious for making people cry, whether it is from their scenes, the music, or the topic itself. So he writes here, so if the movie is good, you cry? Question mark. This is the question my son asked my wife after watching Onward, baffled by the contrast between the happy ending and her hysterical sobs. She nodded in confirmation. After all, tears are a pretty solid indicator of a film's emotional impact. Yeah, if a film doesn't make you cry, it's not, or not just cry, but make you feel any sort of feeling, whether it's anger, happy, funky, or anything like that, then that means that you're not feeling what they're trying to portray on the film itself. So you should always try to make yourself feel like you're part of the uh, story and scenes and the music. So Pixar is frighteningly good at inducing tears to the point where it's almost anticipated. As the film reaches its climax, my tears ducts will stand waiting for the emotional cue. A colorful character having an empathy, the thinking soundtrack, and the twinkling sounds acting as Pavlov's bell. So let's take this here as a grain of salt here. And dissect everything, each grain of salt dissected. So, yes, the twinkling soundtrack, they usually use the violins, maybe some viola and some cello. They sometimes have the drums with the soft brushes, and it's always those high pitched sounds that they make them staccato in a perfect way, and then they make them go legato to the point that you just are resonating with the sound itself. And then you always see the characters and you have empathy with them, because most characters on a Pixar film are basically based on everyday scenario, everyday characters, things you always feel. Like, one of the topics usually Pixar films talk about a lot is about death. You can see that on the film Up. On the film Up, you see that the main character's wife dies, and they never reach to that magical place the wife wanted to go. So he embarks his journey into getting into that magical place that she always wanted to go. And every time he's getting there, he's always trying to get a better feeling of the area, and then always looks at the photo and be like, we're getting there, we're heading there, don't you worry, even though she's dead. And that's pretty damn sad. And it's really devastating when we find out she died. So it's so effective that it's almost beginning to bother me. Am I really so easy to manipulate? Clearly, yes. Most of us are easy to manipulate. You hear a violin and you start crying. It's inevitable. Or you see a really empathetic scene and you start crying. It's inevitable. Specifically on a Pixar film that you probably grew up with that character, So their sad scenes are earned through the actions of their characters, their losses, gains, and subsequent transformation. It's because you correlate with the character really well, so it is a thing, So Pixar stories tend to resonate due to their willingness to explore complex emotions, particularly that the impact of death. Not literal death necessarily, but metaphorically. The death of a childhood, of a parenthood, the death of childhood, of parenthood, saying goodbye and moving away. Death might seem like a strange, unnecessarily dark subject for children, but childhood is all new beginnings and thus ending. Beloved grandparents disappear, pets perish, friends come and go, while childhood itself slowly bleeds out. This unchangeable aspect of life runs through almost all Pixar films, particularly Toy Story, the shadow of garbage heap, lingering over the heads of the characters. But crucially, Pixar always shows a way forward, careful to balance tragedy with hope and optimism. Nemo's mother and siblings are devoured early in the Finding Nemo, but as a result, he and his father grows especially close. Inside Out shows Riley Brain undergoing a traumatic transformation as the old other crumbles and makes way for the new, while Wally witnesses the literal end of the world, but by planting a single seed, builds a new civilization on top of the ruins. And it's a thing that we're clearly seeing happening now with what Wally represents. We are all destroying our own civilization, and we're all turning it into a digital era, a digital world. You see that on Wall-E when they're all sitting on those moving chairs, on the moving platforms, and they're just staring at some big screens, and then you realize that there's more to it when you see the one of the characters screen just pops out, and then they can see beyond the screen, and then they go like, whoa, there is more than this literal screen that we're looking at. So it's a thing, and we're seeing that happening now. Most of us probably work at home. Most of us probably do something from a distance, and most of us are doing digital things. And it's a thing that we're gonna have to work with. It's a thing that we're gonna live with, and we're gonna have to understand eventually. But we can't let the screen dictate our lives. We gotta see what's beyond there. Sometimes you gotta go outside. Sometimes you gotta stay indoors. Probably you might stay more times indoors than going outside, but you still have to go outside in order to continue with the good stuff and the happiness and changing the scenario, because it can all be the same thing over and over and over. Unless that one thing makes you happy, then by all means do it all the time if you feel like it. So yeah. Anyways, let's continue listening to some more music on the Andrew Van Sark podcast, and we'll continue talking about Pixar's films that makes us cry. The music and the scenes. We'll continue developing the information, but let's go get it. We're gonna go listen to the artist of the day, Mike Bliss. So let's go get it.
This is the artist or producer featured of the day.
Now you're listening with power.
Reach out my hand, fingertips getting shorter, it starts to hurt a little. I'm only getting older. I miss more and more from when I was a kid. Don't you remember when life was easier than this? Now it seems so backwards, where we don't forgive and we would rather forget. I think I need a break, 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 I think I need a break, 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 think I need a break. You're inside my head. I'm searching for some comfort. I just wanna feel important, like I'm something that you wanna last. I am so afraid to trust, but I can never stop myself when I open up too much. I'll just open up the store and hope that something's on the other side. I wish I didn't have these feelings that are just too hard to hide. When it's enough, enough. Well, I can't fast forward and I'm bending backwards for you. And I'm terrified of what else you could possibly do. I'm just a guy who sees happier people than me, wondering when I'll get my chance to finally breathe. Think I need a break, 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 think I need a break.
Now you're listening with power.
All right, let's continue here with the information that we're talking about. Pixar. Pixar makes you cry. That's inevitable. I'm gonna continue repeating that the whole way through because that's the topic of the day. So continuing here, we have The Incredibles. The Incredibles takes place long after a golden age of superheroism, yet the Parr family continues to protect the innocent, adapting to a hostile landscape. Coco, Up, and Onward all depict the death of the beloved family members, but the protagonist learns to move forward to appreciate the living, while honoring the dead. These films get under the skin of parents, particularly because they remind us of parenthood is, or what parenthood is, and in some sense temporary. Raising a child means letting them go in stages as they become less and less dependent. Learning to walk, going to school, growing into emotional distant teens who eventually leave the house and build their own life. There is a beauty in that and a relief, but also a great sadness. Children experience this too. The constant shifting and reshaping of their perspective means that their world is simultaneously dying and springing back to life, growing a little more complicated each time. Consciously or not, most Pixar films embody this bittersweet reality, giving parents and children a rare opportunity to share a story that they both enjoy and understand in their own way. So yes, if we cry, the movie is good. So, a lot of films indeed from the Pixar world make us cry. One scene that always makes me really sad is when you see Nemo's dad and mom, and then this big fish, I think it's a barracuda, goes and snatches Nemo's mom, and then Nemo's mom gets completely chumped off, dead, and then she goes try to save the eggs, fail, and only one egg survives, and he's called Nemo. If I'm not mistaken, Nemo means beginnings. Nemo definition. I think Nemo means beginnings or nothing. Nobody. Yeah, Nemo means nobody. So the whole story says the whole film is called Finding Nemo, right? So Finding Nemo basically is telling you that we're finding nobody. And there's a theory that Nemo is just a figment of Nemo's dad's imagination, because he's always mourning and remembering the loss of his wife. And that's pretty damn dark and sad, if you ask me. If that is the truth and the reality of what the developers and the film producers and animators try to portray in the screenwriter, you know. But if not, it's still damn sad to see all that happen on the beginning. Just the film just starts, and all you see is that one devastating scene, and that song. Wow, it's super intense. It's super intense with the emotions. It really catches me. I was listening to it today, Nemo's theme, and damn, it sure makes me damn sad. But there's a lot of stuff from Pixar and Disney that makes us really damn sad, and we have to, understand what's happening. So let's go listen to some more music here on the Andrew Van Zart podcast. We're going to listen to Over the Barrel by yours truly. Let's go get it. Here we go.
Andrew Van Zart, Andrew Van Zart, Andrew Van Zart, Andrew Van Zart.
But before, a word from our sponsor. The sponsor of my stream and podcast is DistroKid. If you want 10% off on your first subscription with DistroKid, release your music to the world on every major music platform. Make sure to go to my website, andrewvanzark.com, and click on the discount link under the tab of DistroKid.
Listening with power. This is a spoiler warning.
Well, I didn't see that coming.
If you don't like spoilers, make sure to tune out.
Try again.
But if you know what we're talking about, make sure to leave me a message on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or tune into my next live show at twitch.tv/AndrewVanZark and leave me a message there on the chat. So let's get started and listen at your own risk.
Alright, so let's get started here. Ranking the 15 best scenes from Pixar. Later on, we're gonna go branch out into Disney, DreamWorks, and all that stuff, you know? So, the first one here, this was written by Audrey Fox on August 30th, 2021. So, let's get started here. So, over just a few short decades ago, Pixar has perfected the art of ripping your heart out and showing it into you. For the Celebration Animation Studio, it's not enough to just make entertainment films for young children. Pixar filmmakers consistently challenge themselves to produce complex and thoughtful movies that work for both kids and adults. And for sure, they do entertain children, but for adults, they do see the in-between lines of every scene. And let me tell you, some of the scenes on Pixar films are completely dark and really sad. In fact, most of Pixar is fucking sad. There's no way to escape the sadness out of a Pixar film. So, throughout the studio's tenure, its best scenes have one or two of these qualities of both immersive visuals, creativity, and powerful emotional resonance. Yeah, because you get to correlate with the audience, with the scenes, you know, because they are really, really hardcore. Like, you see them, you understand what's happening, and you start crying. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So, at its best, Pixar is inequivocally capable of making audiences attached to its characters, leading to scenes that are devastating, funny, heartwarming, and a pleasure to look at. Although the studio has produced its share of underwhelming films, there is no discernible drop-off in quality at any point in its history. Yeah, like for example, the first Toy Story, in my opinion, doesn't have too much emotional scenes, being the first film that Pixar releases and shows to the world. It does have its moments where you feel kind of devastated, like when Woody and Buzz are like in the window, and Woody's under the box, and Woody and is it Woody? Yeah, Woody's the one under the box, and Buzz is like staring at the table like with the rock, and he's like, "What's the point? I'm just a toy." And when Buzz realizes after watching the Al Barn commercial that he's actually a toy, and then he opens his wrist and it's like made in Taiwan, and he's devastated, and then he tries to fly because that cannot be the reality. Even though my reality is a toy, I can still try and change it. And he tries to fly up the window, but he falls and crashes. So even though that film has those few scenes that make you feel kind of sad about the characters, in reality it's not that harsh compared to other scenes, you know. Other scenes are more intense and more likely to make you cry. So, that's why I say some of them are underwhelming, because they're not all that sad, you know, but they do have a lot of sad into it. So, Pixar being any less than ambitious, sure, there is an unnecessary sequel or two on Pixar filmography, but overall Pixar has a consistency that any other studio would be proud of. That commitment to pushing the limits has led to a huge number of memorable scenes, many of which became classics to the second they debuted. Here are 15 of the best. So ranking at 15, Toy Story 4, The Return of Bo Peep. Bo Peep has been lost for quite some time, and we can see that on the Lamp Life short, how Bo Peep became Andy's sister's lamp, and toy 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 and toy. You. Hello? Hello? Okay, there we go. Let me see if the thing is working here. Hello? Hello? 1, 2, 3, testing, testing, testing. I sure wish this wasn't happening and I could just continue talking like I usually do. Alright, there we go. We're good. We're good. So, we can see that in Lamp Life that Bo Peep, we can see how she became from Andy's sister's toy and lamp to a toy that they gave her literally for free on a box in the curved side of the house, and then some parent picked it up and then made it a twin sister's lamp, and then from there she got tossed away again and then ended up on an antique shop, and then we see that Bo Peep returns in Toy Story 4. But the funny thing is that we get that short film after the Toy Story 4 came out, and it's really that scene there and everything there is really sad, Although Toy Story 4 was generally well received by both audience and critics, it has a somewhat dour, resigned quality to it. Woody, previously a fount of energy and optimism, comes across as tired, his confidence and his purpose shaken. So it makes a certain amount of sense that most memorable scenes from the film comes when a long-lost character re-enters the story, one who is filled with conviction and self-assurance. Woody's ex-girlfriend, Bo Peep. Yes, Woody's ex-girlfriend is then shown again here on the Andrew Van Zark podcast. Yeah? Because we're going to show her right now? Not really. I'm just messing with all y'all. Anyway, so, yeah, Bo Peep comes out again, and we are like, whoa, where have you been? Yeah, I didn't see you since quite some time, And, welcome back, Brent Bishop. So, we're talking about Toy Story 4. And then we see that once she finds out a way to escape from the antique shop, she makes the antique shop her safe zone, but she likes to waddle and walk around the park. That's right across the street. When we last saw Bo, she was just a sweet little porcelain doll tending to her flock sheep. Here, she spent 7 years living life on her own terms, allowing her to become bold, resourceful, and emotionally fulfilled. Whereas Woody sees being a lost toy as a tragedy, Bo regards it as freedom. Through her thoughtful and empowering reintroduction, Toy Story 4 pushes its lead character to consider a life outside of service to a single kid, helping Woody find new purposes in the transitory moments of joy he can bring to hundreds of kids passing through the carnival. Sure, that scene is memorable because we now see Bo Peep and all that kind of stuff, But, in my opinion, on Toy Story 4, the really iconic scene for me and that I really correlated with was when uh, the girl goes into a school for her first time. I think it was kindergarten, or was it pre-kinder? I'm really sure. I think it's kindergarten. So she gets to go to kindergarten, and she's devastated. She's scared, and who hasn't been scared going to school when you're like in primary school? Like, it's really scary. You don't know anybody. You're new to the school. You're trying to understand what the people are doing, what's up, what's not up, what's good, what's not good, what's available to do, what's not available to do, and you start rethinking that you wish you were home with your parents and with your family, and or just at your room playing with your toys, or with your video games or something, or your computer. But that's not the case. You gotta go to school, and you're really scared. You start crying. You start feeling anxiety, and then you start finding ways to make yourself feel at home. Sometimes it can be by just simply drawing on the notebook. It could be simply by whistling a song. It could be by just daydreaming about something you love doing. It could be literally talking to the guy or girl next to you, or it could be simply just grabbing something from nowhere and turning it into a saved blanket. So in this case, we see that she's really sad and devastated and anxious, and with anxiety. So Woody goes into her backpack before she ends up going to kindergarten to make sure she's doing okay. And then when he sees her feeling like that, he literally creates a toy out of trash. Literally out of trash. Those bendy fur sticks and forks, And that's when we see that when she grabs it, that she feels comfort, she feels great. And that's a scene that I really correlated with on Toy Story 4, because we need to continue feeling safe when we go to school, because if not, you won't be wanting to come back. And school should be a safe zone. School should be a nice place, because you gotta learn, you gotta understand how life works, what is science, what is math, what is Spanish, what is English, what is music, what's art. You gotta understand all those subjects: history, social studies, geography studies. You gotta understand a bit of everything, and then you find out what's your favorite thing. In my case, when I went to school, I always knew that music and art was my favorite thing. I loved going to art class. I loved going to music class and band class. When I was in primary school, it was completely a flute. We will just be playing a recorder flute. And then when I got to secondary school, it was all about the drums, band, and music theory, So you gotta go to school, or at least to some sort of education, to understand a bit of everything and find out yourself. You gotta do an introspection about yourself, and that's why I say that scene really correlates with me, because we all feel scared the first day that we're going to somewhere new. It doesn't have to be school. It could be anything else. When you're trying something new, when you're doing something new that you've never experienced before, you're gonna feel sad, and you're gonna feel with anxiety and like scared, like, what am I doing here? What is this? What is up? What is down? What am I supposed to do? And that's why I say that it correlates with me. So anyways, before we continue ranking all the different best Pixar scenes and Pixar films that give us emotional feelings, let's go continue listening to some more music here on the Andrew Van Sark radio show on Planet X radio station. So let's get it. This one's Voice of the Soul.
Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark. superpower.
This is a spoiler warning.
Well, I didn't see that coming.
If you don't like spoilers, make sure to tune out.
Please hang up and try again.
But if you know what we're talking about, make sure to leave me a message on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or tune into my next live show at twitch.tv/AndrewVanZark and leave me a message there on the chat. So let's get started and listen at your own risk.
All right. So, going to number 14 right here on the rankings of best scenes and best films of Pixar, and scenes that make you feel like you want to cry, and they're really emotional. It's in Finding Dory, when Dory finds her parents. In Finding Nemo, Dory's is a comic relief. Her forgetfulness is a running gag and a constant source of exasperation for Marling. He tries to track down his missing son, but in Finding Dory, it's a completely different thing. Finding Dory, with the focus entirely on Dory, there's room for a more complex investigation of the blue tang short-term memory lost fish. You know, I used to have a Dory in my old fish tank, but it wasn't blue, it was yellow. Same family of genes and whatnot, but it was yellow. When Dory was a little fish, she was separated from her parents. Here, she attempts to track them down. A sequence in which Dory gets directions that will lead her straight to her mother and father seems straightforward, but Dory can't keep the instructions in her head long enough to get to where she needs to go. That is for sure, because she is forgetful, and she was always trying to find her parents, but halfway through she would forget. Eventually she remembers where to find them because of all the flashbacks she was getting throughout the whole film. It's devastating to watch Dory spinning in circles, trying to as hard as she can to hang on to a single nugget of information, but then incredibly she finds them, and she apologizes. And a version of Dory who is self-aware enough to recognize her shortcomings and to be frustrated by them makes this entire sequence much more emotionally charged, adding depth and gravitas to a lark like Finding Dory. I think the takeaway I can have from Finding Dory is that Finding Dory is not really about Finding Dory as in finding the fish. Sure, in the film there's a point where Marling loses Dory and doesn't know where Dory is and tries to find her because they end up going to a zoo where there's an aquarium in that zoo, and they try to track things down and continue doing as best as possible to find Dory's parents. But as soon as they get lost and whatnot, it becomes your typical Finding Nemo kind of thing, but instead of Nemo, it's Dory. But in my opinion, this film does not talk about Finding Dory as in literally finding Dory. But for me, it's more of an introspection of who you are. What can you take away from yourself, Because every time you see Dory remembering her past, remembering when she was a little tiny baby fish, you can see that she's trying to remember how she was, what makes her do what she wants to do. When she remembers that about the shells, to remember that she can come back, because her parents find out as early as possible that she had lost her memory, or memory lost term, short time lost memory, and the shells would help her go back to the places that she had to go back, like for example the house where they lived, that little rock in there, because they lived in an aquarium, so there was always fishes going in a circle, like in a whirlpool kind of thing, and they lived on the inside of those fishes. If she would go outside of the fishes area, where the parents were, to that where all the fishes were going in a circle, that would be a completely harsh problem because Dory would get lost because she would forget where she is because 360 around the whole thing looks the same. It's only nitpicks of different details, you know? So she has to always remember herself, and her mom got the idea to put the shells in the same exact form so that maybe she won't remember that leads to her house, but she will be like, oh, shells, because she was really interested on the shells. And my takeaway of Finding Dory is not that we're finding Dory. It's that we are doing an introspection on who's Dory, you know? And we can correlate this to our life. That's why it's really emotional and really touching the way that the film develops. It's because we can say that it teaches you that you have to be introspective in order to understand yourself. You can't expect for you to understand yourself from the get-go, you know? You gotta find yourself. You gotta see what you think you like the most, what you don't like, or what things trigger you, what things don't trigger you, what makes you sad, what makes you happy, what makes you feel happy feelings, what makes you feel fun, quirky. You gotta understand that, and the only way you can do that is by doing an introspection of yourself, whether it is trying to get daydreams and flashbacks of your past, whether it is analyzing every step that you've taken on your life, and you know, it's a thing, you know. And in my case, when I saw this one on the theater, you know, when I saw this one on the theater, I was so sad every time they would show Baby Dory, you know, with her lovely pink eyes and whatnot. For the first point out to say that she was adorable, but it was just not the adorableness that would make me cry. It was also the way that she was trying to remember herself, remember her parents, and her parents are trying to be as comprehensive as possible, knowing that Dory has problems remembering things. So that's all I can take away from the film. So yeah, keep this in mind. Finding Dory is about introspection, not about literally finding Dory. Anyways, let's go listen to more music here on the Andrew Van Zart podcast. We're gonna listen to Ninjas Attack My Brain. So let's go get it. Here we go. Hajimemashio.
Andrew Van Zart, Andrew Van Zart, Andrew Van Zart, Andrew Van Zart, Andrew Van Zart.
Proceeding with power.
Okay, moving on to number 13. We got Wally. When Wally watches Hello, Dolly. On paper, Wally shouldn't work. It revolves around the last reboot left on Earth. And there is not really any dialogue in the first 20 minutes of the film. That's kind of a tall order, especially for kids. Yet, incredibly, Pixar manages to imbue a little isolated and silent robot with so much personality that can help fall in love with him. You know? After a long shift of compacting garbage, Wally returns to his makeshift home where he accumulates knickknacks and miscellaneous human items. One night, he watches a worn copy of Hello, Dolly on his tiny recycled television set. Wally's large teardrop-shaped eyes gaze at the screen during a love ballad as he eagerly tries to understand the emotions on display. As the two characters join hands, he makes his two robotic arms and interlaces them, imitating human intimacy. It's a magical, touching moment, and one in which our hearts ache for this lonely little robot. Wally, Wally, Wally. What can I say? Wally's one of my all-time favorite Pixar films, other than Toy Story. I could say Toy Story, the entire IP and franchise is completely tier 1 in my list, but we have on tier 2, we got Wally. Nothing can compare to Wally. Then after that, we got Finding Dory and Finding Nemo. But something about Wally, if Wally would have come out when I was a kid, that would have been my top choice. Top. But since Toy Story did, it's my top. But let's indulge into this here. So Wally is a film that talks about the post-apocalypse times. You know, there's been this talk throughout the years that the world is getting destroyed with this global warming thing. The North Pole and the South Pole are gonna melt completely and drain the whole place with water, and then every country is gonna have a little section that's gonna be drained in water, and we're not gonna be able to see it. It's gonna be like different pieces of what happened to Atlantis on the myth, Legends and Myth. So that's a theory that people are saying, but we keep saying that global warming is going to ruin things. We see it on my island where the coastal areas are being devastated and destroyed. There's a lot of things that we do that increases pollution, like doing unconventional ways of doing agriculture and aquaculture, and when there's sustainable methods that we can do to keep things safe and harm free, using less pesticide, using more conventional ways of reusing the crops. Don't destroy habitats if you're farming fish and shellfish and seaweed or any other vegetable that you can do straight from the sea, like those white nuts. I forgot the name of those. So there's sustainable ways of doing things. So Wally talks about how the world depleted their resources, and everything got destroyed, everything was devastated, and there is only one robot left on the entire world, which is Wally. Throughout the film, you see Wally going through this post-apocalyptic city, and like a dumpster kind of place, and Wally is doing his, everyday routine, and then he like the information here says that he starts watching Hey Dolly, trying to understand the romantic scene on the ballad moment of the episode of Hey Dolly. And from there on, the movie continues, and this white robot comes in, right? And then he falls in love with the robot, actually. He starts deeply caring about the robot, because the robot became his only friend, his only person to talk to correlate to share memories, share ideas, share all the things that was happening. And there was a point in the film where that white robot just shuts down, closes up, and Wally's trying to revive the robot, or trying to turn on the robot back, but the robot is still in the hibernation mode. And then he only finds out what to do with the robot once he goes up in the spaceship, in the spacecraft. And he finds out that because the whole city came to be after he planted a seed, and a new city came in, a really high-tech city with people on moving chairs and screens and everything with VR and all that stuff, and it's more sad. Sure, it's heartwarming and it's kind of sad trying to see Wally trying to understand love and romance, but it's more sad for me that the idea that the world's gonna just be destroyed eventually, and there's only gonna be a few survivors. Whether it's destroyed because of a biochemical warfare, whether it's destroyed because of political war, it doesn't matter, or the natural resources get depleted so much that they get destroyed. Because in this day and age, there's not enough people caring about nature. There's more people about caring about their own wealth, their own happiness, and they keep on doing it. It's been a thing since like the beginnings of time. People care about doing what they want instead of what's needed to be done, and that's for me more sad from the film than just caring about what Wally feels in that romance scene. Sure, it is really sad. Like I said, it's really damn heartwarming and sad trying to see him understand that. But the destruction of the world is what concerns me the most. You gotta work a little bit towards nature. Whether it is for the beaches, the forest, the dunes. Doesn't matter. The coastal area, the rocky shores. We always gotta work towards that in order to continue making things feel as good as possible, So that's what makes me more concerned. And then Wally ends up turning her on with a shoe, I think it was. Yeah, with a shoe, and things come back to normal, One thing I remember a lot from the films when we listened to that jazzy song at the beginning. Oh, that was a good song. Actually, lots of Wally's soundtrack is really good. It has some nice gems. So anyways, let's go listen to some more music here on the Andrew Van Zar podcast. And speaking about robots, let's go with Robot War from my album Robot War. So let's get it. Here we go.
Now you're losing your power.
Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark.
Moving on to number 12. Number 12, we got Luca. Luca's a film I saw like last year. It came out fairly recent, you know. No, was it last year? I think it was the beginning of last year. So the thing is that the sky full of fish. So Luca's a really nice film. If you haven't seen it or watched it, before we go into any details,
This is a spoiler warning.
Well, I didn't see that coming.
If you don't like spoilers, make sure to tune out.
Please hang up and try again.
But if you know what we're talking about, make sure to leave me a message on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or tune into my next live show at twitch.tv/AndrewVanZark and leave me a message there on the chat. So let's get started and listen at your own risk.
So Luca may be the new kid on the block in Pixar's world, and it might not have earned the same immediate critical praise as some of the company's other films, but it's an utterly charming, understanding gem of a film, you know? It is. I like the nice blotchy colors and whatnot. As I was reading a little bit of information of Luca, Luca was based on Japanese and Asian animation, even though it was heavily portraying Italy and the sea and whatnot. But it was, if you see the raw ideas behind Luca's, you'll see that they're heavily portraying a lot of the old school anime, Japanese films, and all that stuff, and also fairly recent ones, because if you see the art designs of them, it looks like really like a sea monster from any Japanese animation, whether it is a quirky little kids cartoon or a teenager / adult one. So while Luca lives underwater of the Italian coast, his world is small. It expands after he befriends Alberto, Silencio Alberto, and visits the fishing village of Porto Rosso. But Luca is a boy overflowing with natural curiosity, because we see him first in the starting of the film as a sea creature, but once he reaches the air, the outside world, he turns into a real boy. So, he has natural curiosity. He wants to know more about things. His mom and his parents and his family were like always, don't go to the outside world. Don't go further than this point on. You're gonna regret it. We're gonna get real mad if you do. So, knowing that, his curiosity was peaking way into the horizon, So he ends up just peeking to the outside world, and he sees on a little woody, shitty house, he sees Alberto. And Alberto starts talking to him and all that stuff. And then we see that Luca can change into a human from that point on. So it's like a hybrid fish creature, humanoid kind of thing. And after that, we start to see a nice friendship develop within that. And Luca tries to keep it a secret, but his parents eventually find out. Like every parent, every parent eventually finds out that you're doing something that you're not supposed to do, or something they told you not to do. Even if it's not bad, because it's not bad him testing out what's outside of the world, because he could have done it with supervision. Like, okay, sure, check it out a little bit. But you didn't have to stay always locked in on the same spot, So, we watch Luca is exposed to a literal universe of possibilities. The wonders which Luca looks at the world and how desperate he is to learn about everything is enchanting. It sure is. When you're a kid and you're experiencing the outside world, in this case, let's say you're outside of your house, you end up seeing things that you wouldn't expect, or you didn't experience by staying at your house. There's other things you experience, like big screen theaters, concerts, music, different vehicles and cars, different environments, and it's a thing. Whether you like going to the beach, or you like going to a forest. I prefer going to a forest more than a beach. I like more of the forest. If I need water, I go to a pool. I'd rather go to a pool, or a water area within a forest, like a pond or something, or a hot stream. Hot spring, not stream. Cause the beach, I'm highly allergic to like direct sunlight. If I'm in the beach, I need those big umbrellas, because I can't be under direct sun for too long. So I'd rather go to a forest for that reason. So when you start exploring those different scenarios, Doesn't matter if you do it once or you do it many times. Doesn't matter. You start seeing a whole new world of possibilities, just as how Luca, from going out from the water, was experiencing, And that is one thing that makes it all interesting, and we all want to continue experiencing throughout our lives. So, and as much as Lucas is primarily about the relationship between Luca and Alberto, he and Giulia have a lovely moment here as well. Luca is experiencing something new, but Giulia, that name is so difficult to pronounce. This is the first time she meets someone who shares her unbridled enthusiasm for life. Julia. There we go. I think I'll say Julia. Whatever, Julia. Julia is highly into science, and then she starts showing Luca a bunch of sciencey books that Luca asks, "Can I stay with it?" And then Julia says, "Yeah, sure, take it." So it's very sweet piece of character development, elevated by a musical score that soars as the two children imagine flying through the stars. They imagine that through the stars with the motorcycles and finding their way to see how they can go through the things. That's why they enter the race. The race there that eventually led them to earn and win a moped, and that's how they start exploring everything else. But yeah, if you haven't seen Luca and you haven't experienced the wonderful world of Luca, you should go watch it. It's a really high emotional film. Not as beloved and loved as many other Pixar films, but it is up there in the route. It does give you this good feeling and this good heartwarming vibes, especially with the ending there. Some people might say that this is a slight introduction to gay films in Pixar, but I digress. It is what you want it to be. It is what it is. And like I always say, A is A, but it's not A, but it's still A. So, even though the actual director or creator, I'm not really sure who, was inspired by the by a gay Italian film, but that doesn't mean it is a gay film. So, who knows? Only the director knows what was going through his mind, or the creator was going through his mind when he developed the idea of Luca. So let's go listen to some more music here on the Andrew Van Zar podcast. And now that we're talking about the wildlife, let's go listen to Woods from my album Soundbit 16. So let's go get it. Here we go.
Now you're listening with power. This is the artist or producer featured of the day.
Now you're listening with power.
If you don't come around here any longer, do you wanna come get your stuff? Got a lot of your clothes on my floor, and I don't think I have it in me to pick them up. Maybe we've had too much, maybe we only loved the idea of us. Wish I could pick up the phone and tell you I'm on my way again, instead of saying goodbye to the good times. Goodbye to the good leaving little breadcrumbs. They act as pieces to a puzzle that you'll never solve. Well, what a fairy tale ending, not the way we were intending, but could have called. Maybe we've had too much, maybe we only loved the idea of us. Wish I could pick up the phone and tell you I'm on my way again, instead of saying maybe we've had too much, maybe we only loved the idea of us. Wish I could pick up the phone and tell you it's all okay again, instead of saying goodbye to the good times. Goodbye to the good If you don't come around here any longer, do you wanna come get your stuff? Got a lot of your clothes on my floor, and I don't think I have it in me to pick them up, to pick them up. I wish I had it in me to pick 'em up, to pick them up. Come on, baby, I'll leave.
When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform. Power to the music. When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark, stream on every major music platform.
Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark.
All right, let's continue here with more of the information that we can talk about of Pixar, and the most iconic scenes and the emotion behind all those animated films. So at 11, we have Ratatouille. Ratatouille is about the little small rat. They do have a new ride at Disney, if I'm not mistaken, on the French area, and that's quite interesting on Epcot because Epcot is about learning and the future, but we're getting all this Disney themed stuff. But you know, it is the thing. We gotta progress somehow. So if getting little kids into Epcot more and more and more, it's the way to go. Then by all means, because I wanna see Disney develop more stuff and continue on its journey with more stuff. So Ratatouille is a really nice film that we have here. Uh, and if Brent Bishop has any film from Disney, whether it is Pixar, Disney animated, or live action, any Disney film that you can tell me your saddest scene or something that makes you feel emotional, you let me know. But going here with Ratatouille is Remy's first restaurant. So as far as back as you can remember, Remy the rat has wanted to be a chef. When he heads to Paris, he can't resist peeking at the inner workings of the restaurant, formerly owned by his hero, Chef Auguste Gustou. Watching the chef from a roof window, he's in heaven, but then disaster strikes. Garbage boy Alfredo Linguini knocks over a pot of soup, then adds random ingredients at the pot in a desperate bid to hide his mistake. Overcome with indignations at the ruined soup, Remy falls through the skylight and into the kitchen. An environment as appealing as it is dangerous for that. Uh, Remy makes his escape. He passes the soup and he can't stop himself from fixing it. The animation of Remy's cooking is lyrical and artistic, establishing Remy's as a prodigy who is finally in his element. It's the life, 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 the life. Hello? Hello? Okay, there we go. We're coming back, we're coming back, we're coming back. And we're back, we're back, we're back. So, Ratatouille, in my opinion, we can see that Remy is a prodigy who is finally in his element. It's delightful to see him work blissfully, tuning out the kitchen's chaos, and the very real treat the other cooks pose. So Ratatouille is a really cute film. I don't remember much about the Ratatouille film because I only seen it I think 2 times, 3 times on my life, a few times on TV, and then the one time it came out on the theater. But I haven't dwelled too much into Ratatouille to give you a bit insight on Ratatouille. But Remy's first restaurant, that iconic scene, I do remember it. And after Ratatouille, I know that my mom got really, really, really into eating that Ratatouille dish. That's for sure. And she ate it for a few weeks straight, at least once every week until she got over it, But yeah. Ratatouille, the little cute rat, which like I said in the beginning, there's now a ride or an attraction or something at the French pavilion on Epcot. So, yeah. Anyways, let's continue here with number 10, Bucks Live. PT Flea's Greatest Circus. Sandwiched between several more famous Pixar movies, A Bug's Life never seems to get the credit it deserves. That's for sure. The only credit I see for Bug's Life is that 3D show on Animal Kingdom, you know? But other than that, people don't barely speak about the film, you know? And they should, you know? Because it's a really good film. I used to have the entire collection of all the toys, the little flying thing contraption they develop in order to get rid of the bees and whatnot. Was it bees or was it wasps? I'm not sure if it was. I think they were wasps. I always had that confusion. Bees or wasps? But then again, bees wouldn't be looking that angry, you know. So, A Bug's Life never seems to get the credit it deserves. It's one of Pixar's most underrated gems, with a really creative take on bugs' day-to-day lives. That's especially rewarding upon rewatch. And here's a fun fact. You know DreamWorks, right? So, DreamWorks was created from an ex-employee from Pixar that was fired. I don't remember the reason why he got fired, but after he got fired, he got so mad. It was like, okay, all right. You know, you're missing something. I worked with Pixar. I know the ins and outs of Pixar. So let's create my own counterpart. And then he creates DreamWorks. And from there, he was going to be one of the original creators or the ones that were going to, you know, produce A Bug's Life. But you know what? That DreamWorks Ant film was literally the original idea of A Bug's Life. But then he switches it up to like orangey colors and whatnot, because in A Bug's Life they're all bluey and whatnot, you know. Because Pixar always has to make it a little bit, you know, unrealistic in some shape or form. But that's the funny part. Even being unrealistic as it is, it's still being realistic. It's a funny thing, you know. So, just look at the sequence at PT Flea's Circus. A trope of performance executes a death-defying stunt in which a spider must spin a web fast enough to catch two pill bugs before they're shot into the piece of flypaper. And oh, by the way, they're all blindfolded. So, yeah, every element of the scene is perfectly structured and timed, from the frenetic M scene of PT Flea to the recreation shots of the flies in attendance to the grimly hilarious way to the stunt somehow spirals widely out of control. It's Pixar's signature comedic sensibilities on full display, and it's absolutely a pleasure to look at. There's not much more you can ask from that. So, A Bug's Life is a really good gem. If you haven't seen it, which I don't know how you would have not seen it if you're my age. If you're around my age or my age, I don't know how you've never seen A Bug's Life. But if you haven't, and you're younger, and you haven't experienced many of the original classic Pixar films, go watch it. Go have some fun. Go do the thing, you know? Make yourself a favor. So, yeah. Let's go listen to some more music here on the Andrew Van Zark podcast on Planet X radio station. So, let's go. We're going to play Brent Bishop's favorite, Helicopter, from my album, Strobe. So, let's go get it. Here we go. All aboard.
Now you're listening with power.
The sponsor of my stream and podcast is DistroKid. If you want 10% off on your first subscription with DistroKid, release your music to the world on every major music platform. Make sure to go to my website, andrewvanzark.com, and click on the discount link under the tab of DistroKid.
Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark.
This is a spoiler warning.
Well, I didn't see that coming.
If you don't like spoilers, make sure to tune out.
Please hang up and try again.
But if you know what we're talking about, make sure to leave me a message on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or tune into my next live show at twitch.tv/AndrewVanZark and leave me a message there on the chat. So let's get started and listen at your own risk.
Alright, so let's get running here with number 9. The Incredibles with the scene No Capes. If there's one thing you can say about The Incredibles is that Edna Mode steals the show. A droll, pin-sized fashion designer, Edna is the go-to woman for any and all superhero costumes in the Incredible universe. She just has one rule: no capes. It is because they're hopelessly cliched, perhaps. Cliched? Perhaps, you know? But I think, in my opinion, capes are really impractical. Hear me out why. I've actually cosplayed before, and every time I do a superhero that doesn't require a cape, I can walk freely and better. But when I do a character that does have a cape, I'm scared of always stepping on it, you know, and tripping and falling. Sure, you can say that they can make the cape to the custom-made size so it doesn't happen and you don't trip and fall from stepping on it, but still, you know. Another thing is true. I agree with Edna Mode here. It is a bit cliched, you know. So Edna runs through a visual montage of different superheroes in capes, all of whom met their doom because of cape-related catastrophes. It's clear that there's something more to play here. See? I agree with it. I'm out. You could trip and fall and do a catastrophe, you know? So Edna likely feels guilty of having designed the costumes that would intimately lead to the hero's death. At any rate, even without reading into Edna's motivations for her legendary no-cape rules, the scene shines a light on one of the film's most entertaining side character. Lets Pixar's animators flex their creative muscles and give us a fun look at creative designs for half a dozen different superheroes. Indeed. This is one of another iconic films. I used to play a lot of the GameCube game for The Incredibles, which I think it came out in different platforms. But I did like that one. That was a fun game. I remember that. So, Monsters, Inc., code 2319. There are so many great moments in Monsters, Inc., and it was hard not to include one that features Boo, the tiny human who steals the show from Monsters, Mike Wazowski, Billy Crystal, and Sully, John Goodman. But there's a scene early in one of the films that is so clever, so funny, and so well constructed that it deserves a special mention. When we first see the monsters at work, they operate factory level efficiency. Head into a child's door, scare the child into producing energy generated screams. Move on to the next in matter of minutes. And George, a good natured monster with fluffy orange and yellow fur, ends up with a child stuck in his back. He has been contaminated in a panicked code called 2319. This leads to a full-on containment scenario carried out by a bunch of monsters in hazmat suits who look like they are reacting to a world-ending virus. At once, this scene shows us the inner workings of Monsters, Inc., has some fun physical comedy, and introduces the central concept of the film. These monsters are deeply terrified by the children they scare of a living. you know? And yeah, it's Doritos time! So that means that you like Monsters Inc., don't ya? That's why you're throwing us Doritos, Brent, huh? Is that why? Is that why, Brent? But yeah. So, Monsters Inc. is one of those iconic films that show what kids are afraid of. Monsters in the closet, monsters in under the bed, monsters in the window, you know? Everyone, since early on in the humanity's life. You know, we can see my dad tells me that when he was a little kid, he used to be scared of monsters in the room while he had to go to sleep, you know? So, Monsters Inc. clearly shows this portrayed in its film, you know? And it's funny that in some cases, the monsters are actually afraid of us, you know? They're afraid of the humans. We can see that clearly when they say code 2319, code 2319, and the song gets stuck to the monster's back, and they start, you know, with the asthma and whatnot, like it says here on the article right here, you know? So, yeah, it's really funny, you know, because usually we're the ones scared of monsters, but they're actually scared of us. So, topping here at number 7, we got Toy Story 3. The toys accept their immortality. You know, it's when they were going to the dumpster and they're going to that fire pit with toys and the dumpster getting all crunched up, because you know. In dumpsters, we do need to crunch up the trash so it doesn't accumulate for too long. So in Toy Story 3, it's the best of the last of the films in the series, featuring Andy as the boy we watch grow up in Toy Story and Toy Story 2. Headed off to college. It's no surprise then that the theme of Toy Story 3 is letting go. It's really sad because that one scene when Andy gives all the toys to the girl from the daycare, it's really emotional because we grew up with Andy. We grew up attached to Andy's way of seeing the toys, even if we had all the ins and outs and hits and misses of the characters being all mad at each other because Woody doesn't understand why Buzz has to take the main attraction so early on the franchise, you know. And Woody was always Andy's favorite toy. It was actually the only toy till that time that had Andy written on the boots. Then randomly it's when on Toy Story 2 we start to see different characters getting Andy written on the boots or in the shoes or on the downside of the toy, you know. But we only see on Toy Story 1 Woody first. Then after a while we see Buzz with Andy written on the shoe. And when we see Toy Story 3, it clearly shows the theme of letting go, because in the beginning we see Andy is a grown up 20-something-year-old or 18-year-old. I'm not really sure. He's heading to college, you know. So it's gonna be his first year in college, and you see that the toys are being locked in the toy box for too long, and they haven't been played for a while because Andy was too concerned and too attached with his computer, his music player, and then the toys eventually end up doing. I remember what was it that they do that makes Andy check the toy box. Oh no, it was that they were cleaning out the room so that Andy could grab the things that he was going to take to college and things that he was going to leave. And the toys were supposed to go to the attic, you know, but they accidentally, because he left the bag there on the floor, they accidentally end up in the daycare, and all that shenanigans happens. The girl from the daycare, the owner's daycare, ends up being attached to the toys and brings them home to her home. And then when Andy realizes what has happened, he starts to play with her and show her how the toys were and how he used to make believe with the toys. And he ends up giving away the toys to the little girl, making her the one in charge of the toys from now on. and that's who we see on Toy Story 4 and all the short films we see after the Toy Story 4. And that scene when they fall on the dumpster and they're gonna be crunched up, it's really, really anxiety inducing. I was so like, no, don't crush them. And that purple bear, I hated that purple bear. That purple bear would always piss me off. Sure, kids grow up and they forget about you and they forget about their toys. That's a truth reality. Because there could be two scenarios. Either you lost the toy, or you locked the toy in your toy box or something for too long, and you forgot about it. You know. And toys, they love being played with. That's what they're meant to be. They're meant to be played with. They're meant to be tossed around and shaked and wiggled around and make them believe they're something when they're actually something else or whatever, you know. Any of that shit. Anything of those things that kids do, you know. And it's really, really, really devastating when you see this scene, you know. So it's no surprise that the theme of the Toy Story 3 is letting go. With Andy too old to play with the toys, Woody, Buzz, and the rest must accept being thrown out, placed in a storage, or passed on to another child, or in this case, several children, as they end up being loved fiercely by a group of ambitious toddlers at the local daycare. On Sunny Daycare, to be more specific, you know? The movie's palpable sense of things ending takes a much darker tone near the end of the movie, when the toys end up at the dump, falling over closer to an incinerator that will destroy them. Sensing that they have no way out, Woody and Buzz lock eyes in grim resignation, and the group of the toys all lock arms, accepting their impending death together. Yikes. Agree with that, you know, because it's really something to keep in mind, you know. Even though we're talking about toys here, we can totally say that the theme of letting go, it's really prevalent. And it's not just about toys, it's about everything. Sometimes you gotta let go of ideas, of things, of houses, you know, of ways of thinking. So, you know, it's a thing, you know. It's a thing that we gotta all understand and feel. So anyways, let's go listen to some more music here on the Andrew Van Zart podcast on the radio show of Planet X. So let's get it. We're going to listen to Orbit, one of my latest singles. So let's go get it. Here we go.
Now you're listening with power.
listening with power. The sponsor of my stream and podcast is DistroKid. If you want 10% off on your first subscription with DistroKid, release your music to the world on every major music platform. Make sure to go to my website, andrewvanzark.com, and click on the discount link under the tab of DistroKid.
Number 6, we have Finding Nemo. If you have any scenes of Finding Nemo that you love a lot or something, let me know there. One of the scenes that I like a lot is when they're doing the volcano scene. Ooga booga, ooga booga, ooga booga. Yeah, on the dentist's office, on the fish tank there. So Finding Nemo, the fish tank. Finding Nemo has plenty of scenes that are almost unfairly emotional. After all, this is the story of a father whose wife and hundreds of children were eaten by a barracuda and ends up separated by an entire ocean from the only child he was left. But Pixar has always intuitively understood how to balance the light and the dark, and how to create poignant scenes that coexist seamlessly alongside moments of humor and joy. A sequence where Nemo first meets all the fish in the tank at the Sydney's dentist's office. It's not only generally funny, it shows off how efficiently the makers of Finding Nemo introduce entire tropes of characters in a few short moments. The captive fish have grown a little, shall we say, eccentric since being put in the fish tank. One is fiercely protective of the bubbles that rise from the tiny treasure chest. One is convinced that her reflections is actually her sister, Flo. They're all armchair dentists, commenting on their captor's techniques whenever he has patience. Each character oozes personality, and together they create an engaging cast of secondary characters that sees Nemo through the second act of the film. So yeah, Finding Nemo is one of those films that is really emotional, starting off from the opening scene, before we see the title Finding Nemo, with the barracuda eating all the fish, eggfish, and eating the mom. And then Marlin stays lost without Nemo after he gets captured by the big fisherman, because Marlin says to Nemo, please don't go too far off from this on. But still, Nemo didn't listen and continued swimming, I mean. And then one thing I remember, speaking about swimming, from Finding Nemo is it's Dory saying, just keep swimming, 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 just keep swimming, 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 just keep swimming. And then they goes like, huh? What are we doing again? Oh, what? Who are you? I'm Marlin. We were trying to find my son Nemo. Wait, what? That's that. The Dory's just a funny critter. It's just a funny critter. But we gotta continue understanding all the scenes here on Pixar, because they're highly quirky, funny, emotional, happy. They make you correlate with the feelings that the actual characters are having. So yeah. So another scene that's really iconic from the Pixar films. On number 5, we have Toy Story: The Toys' Revenge. You know that scene when Woody talks to Sid's fucked up toys. Says let's do this and that and this, and you go here, you go over there, and then they do this plot of revenge. And then you see the soldiers coming up from the sandbox. You see Woody that flips his head at 360 like, we are always listening, so play nice, Sid. That's a really iconic scene. I always remember. I remember as a kid, I had almost all the toys that they were available to buy and purchase of Toy Story by that time. And I used to always, when watching the film on that scene, always twist Woody's head on my toy, twist it like, and then shake it like he was saying the actual lines from the film. So yeah, Toy Story is the film that launched Pixar as a brand in 1995, a year after I was born. So, and all these years later, is still one of its best. The number one scene in Toy Story, and it's interesting how it's been almost 26 years from that film, and the animation still holds up fairly good. In fact, it holds up really good. So the number one scene in Toy Story, though, also happens to be the weirdest. It comes totally out of left field, but also capitalizes on the film's underlying premise in wildly creative ways. We're talking, of course, of the scene that tackles the unspoken truth of the Toy Story universe. It would be absolutely terrifying if toys were alive. If there's a villain in Toy Story, it's Sid, the creepy boy next door, who plays a little rough with his toys, and yeah, sometimes blows them up. You want to make a federal case out of it? I don't think so. While most of Toy Stories is a lighthearted romp, the scenes in which the toys teach Sid a lesson gets dark. The ability to defy switch gears on a dime, exemplified by this scene, is one of Pixar's greatest strengths. All of their films play with tone in a sophisticated manner, and it all starts here, with Tom Hanks admonizing Sid to play nice while decapitated action figures rise from the mud like something out of a zombie movie. Literally, this scene encompasses everything you would totally understand from a Pixar film. The anxiety, the devastation, the confusion, the emotional feels, the funniness, the quirkiness. It has everything. And from this point on, Pixar was known for doing such intriguing scenes on their animated films. And no one has ever been able to top that. Not even DreamWorks, not even Disney itself, because before Pixar was extremely famous, Pixar was its own thing by Steve Jobs, and then later on it gets bought, or they joint venture with Disney and stuff like that, and they become one, and now it's Disney's Pixar, you know. So yeah, it's from this point on, it's how we start to see how Pixar is formed, how Pixar develops its own scenes, and how everything works around the Pixar animation. So moving here to number 4, Inside Out, to take her to the moon for me. When you watch Inside Out, you're expected to see the emotions featured in the trailer: joy, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear. But hidden within the depths of Riley's mind is the film's most pleasant surprise: Bing Bong, the cat elephant dolphin hybrid voiced by Richard King. He was Riley's imaginary friend when she was little, and they went on incredible make-believe adventures together. But by the time Inside Out takes place, Riley is a preteen, and has all but forgotten Bing Bong. Bing Bong's love for Riley's is endless. However, his greatest wish is for Riley, his best friend, to remember him. If you're already getting weepy, buckled up. It's about to get a million times worse. When Bing Bong and Joy end up trapped in the memory dump, the place where all memories are permanently forgotten, they find Bing Bong's old wagon rocket, which they plan to use to escape. Each time they fall short, until Bing Bong sacrifices himself, jumping out of the wagon and allowing himself to be forgotten so that Riley can have a chance at being happy. Farewell, Bing Bong, you were too good for this world. Honestly, think about it a little bit now. It's true that sometimes you have fond memories that you store in the back of your head and you forget about them. And then you gotta get something in your world, something in your life to trigger it so you can remember what is that you used to do when you had that memory, you know? And It's a sad reality that we forget about all those good things that we used to do. When I was a kid, I also had an imaginary friend. Remember that movie Flubber with Robbie Williams? Well, my imaginary friend looked exactly like Flubber. Or sometimes it looked like Dito from Pokemon. It depends on my mood. If I wanted to be all realistic and live actiony, I would reference Robbie Williams' Flubber. But if I was being too non-realistic and wanted to be more animated, I would reference Dito. So my imaginary friend was a blob, literally a blob. Sometimes would be green, sometimes would be red. Uh, and that blob could turn into whatever you want. It could turn into a trampoline. It could turn into a gun, a sword, a flying object, anything you can think. A ball, a bat, whatever you wanted. And that was my imaginary friend for so long, And it's a thing that I've never forgotten my imaginary friend. We all have imaginary friends. Don't deny it. Don't think I'm weird because I'm saying that I used to have an imaginary friend back in primary school. We all at some point had an imaginary friend. Why? Because we're not born with the perfect qualities to socialize. We learned how to socialize throughout the years of our lives and our experiences, with talking with different people, with interacting with your family, with seeing films, listening to the radio, listening to music, connecting with the people with the same interest. That's how you learn how to socialize. And when you're a kid, you don't know how to do that, especially when you're younger than 5. You don't know how to do that. Even younger than 13 years old. I think you start to understand socializing correctly once you reach 12 years old, 10 years old. I think that's the peak of when you start to understand socializing with others. So once again, we all have imaginary friends. We all have everything that encompasses those memories of inventing something out of nothing. So at number 3 we had Toy Story 2, When She Loved Me. That one scene of Jessie that she gets forgotten because her owner used to be so into cowboys. Then all of a sudden she got into horses, and then all of a sudden she got into makeup, and then she gets abandoned on a box nearby a truck, and then she gets sent away, and then for some reason, somehow, the owner of Barn Toys picks up Jessie. So look when you play with Sarah McLachen's song over a sad montage. You're pretty much guaranteed tears from your audience. In Toy Story 2, Woody's kidnapped by Al of Al Toy Barn, who plans to sell him off as part of a collector's set. There's Woody's meets Jesse Jones Cusack, who is overjoyed at the idea of being sent to a museum and terrified of being attached to any one kid. Does she have abandonment issues? It turns out that Jessie was once the beloved toy of a little girl named Emily. Only as Emily grew up, Jessie was played with less and less and less and less. Which is a case for many kids. They get interested in one thing, then they want to do another thing. Because when you're a kid, you don't know what you want. You don't know what you're into, and you got phases. You got your face when you love one thing, and then you got the other face when you love the other thing. You have a face when you're a rebel, when you don't feel like a rebel, when you want to do this and that. You're always constantly changing your ideas and your methods and your interests. It's not until you reach a certain age that you don't stop changing your interest in things. So When She Loved Me plays over a montage telling the story of each image. It's heartbreaking. Jessie lying under the bed, covered in thin layer of dust. The joy of Jessie's face as she's pulled out by teenage Emily and puts in her purse. The utter contentment as Jessie closes her eyes overjoyed to finally be loved again, and then the confusion and hurt when Emily leaves her in a donation box and drives away. It's hard to simply describe this scene without crying. Anyone who can actually watch it has an iron constitution. Totally, because I've seen this scene more than I can count in my life, and it always makes me cry. I was playing drums today to many Disney films soundtracks, because I love drumming to Disney films soundtracks. So, and Pixar also. So the thing is, I stumbled upon to Jesse's song, and my eyes, I didn't cry, but my eyes were getting kind of warm and watery, you know? And I was like, damn, even just listening to the song, it's really heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time, because it makes you feel such conflicting emotions. Nostalgic, yet happy, but sad. You know, it's a really intense song for such a young audience of a film. You know, because most Pixar films are either PG or G rated. You know, they rarely go PG-13 and over. So, Toy Story having this song "When She Loved Me" by Sarah McLachlan. It's really intense. It holds up so many emotions, and it's not just on the lyrics, but the way that Sarah sings. It's so intense. Like you just cannot, if you can listen to the song and you can watch this scene without crying, without feeling remorse, without feeling like, what have I done with my toys? What have I done with things that I used to love and enjoy, and I threw them away just because I wanted to do something else? Or maybe it's not just a toy or a thing, you know? Maybe it could be a person that you used to hang out with, a friend. Maybe you lost a pet. Or maybe you used to do some, you know, there's many different things. Many different things that you change over your life, over new things, and this song portrays it so perfect, so well. Just thinking about it, I'm having a toll of emotions right now, because you end up thinking about your past, your pets, your loved ones, and your toys, your childhood, and it just breaks your heart. So anyway, let's continue listening to some more music before we end the show here, because we're up going to number 2, and I'll tell you number 2 in a few. But before we go and listen to the next song, let's listen to the word of our sponsor.
The sponsor of my stream and podcast is DistroKid. If you want 10% off on your first subscription with DistroKid, release your music to the world on every major music platform. Make sure to go to my website, andrewvanzark.com, and click on the discount link under the tab of DistroKid.
Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark, Andrew Van Zark.
And we're gonna listen to Bleeps and Blops from my album Channel 3.
you're listening with power. This is a spoiler warning.
Well, I didn't see that coming.
If you don't like spoilers, make sure to tune out.
Please hang up and try again.
But if you know what we're talking about, make sure to leave me a message on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or tune into my next live show at twitch.tv/AndrewVanZark and leave me a message there on the chat. So let's get started and listen at your own risk.
Alright, let's get here running with the two last films of Pixar on our list here. We got Up, the opening montage. The first 10 minutes of Up are a masterclass in visual storytelling, epitomizing the adage of shows don't tell. Up uses this precious early moment to capture the lifelong love of Carl and Ellie, following the couple from childhood to old age to Ellie's eventual death. It is a tremendously moving sequence. It's part because of how breathtakingly ordinarily it is. Carl and Ellie live a life that is, from the outside, utterly insignificant. It is a series of intimate triumphs and tragedies, void of any of the grand adventures they dreamt of as children. But it is these small moments, picnics in the park and household repairs, quiet nights by the fire, bitter disappointments that make up a life. That's for sure. It's the little things that make you a better person. It's the little things that make life more interesting, you know? The dramatic highs and lows that Pixar is able to achieve wordlessly and seemingly effortlessly, because there's no dialogue in this whole sequence at all. It's just that little song that you hear, plus the sequence, the montage, you know. So it's really well put together. So how on earth are they going to stop the first 10 minutes of the film? Top the first 10 minutes of the film. That's for sure, because the same thing as Finding Nemo. This one pops. First 10 minutes, you're hit with the hardest thing ever, you know? And there's no way to recover from that at all. No way. So number one, the one and only. Sadly, I don't want to admit this, but I've never seen this film yet. But Coco, Remember Me. Coco is essentially the feature-length montage of tear-jerker moments. Half of the film could have ended up on this list, but the most powerful scene in Coco comes near the end when Miguel sings Remember Me to his great-grandmother, which I've seen that scene actually, Coco, in attempts to prevent her from forgetting her father, who used to sing the song to her as a child. Ancient and in the later stages of dementia, Coco is all but lost to the world. But as Miguel sings the lyrics to the long-forgotten melody, Coco slowly comes back to life. Her revival may not last, but in this moment she is lucid, speaking about her father to her assembled descendants. In a way, her father becomes alive again too. This scene drives home all the essence themes of Coco, the importance of family, the power of music, and how the greatest things we can do for our loved ones is to pass on their stories. In the world of Coco, you exist as long as there is one person alive on Earth who remembers you. In this way, our legacies give us the abilities to live beyond death. You know, Coco is a film that talks about the day of the death, or el Día del Muerto, as you say it in Spanish, you know? And it's inevitable that there was going to be a lot of sad scenes, you know, remembering your loved ones that have passed, or that are about to pass away. Like, for example, his grandma with dementia and all that stuff, you know? It's hard not to feel lots of emotions throughout the remembrance of death, you know, and the death of loved ones. You know, same thing with the opening montage. You know, even though it's portraying the love that Carl and Ellie have together, in reality, it's really teaching you the steps of life. You begin as a quirky kid with ignorance, not knowing much about life. Then you end up exploring people, exploring the world. You grow old, and then kaput, you die. So in a way, this is portraying in an underlying and subliminal way, a bit kind of literal, but still a bit subliminal because it's not trying to say it straightforward. The cycle of life. You're born, you grow old, and you die. And it's really harsh to see that on an animated film targeted for kids, because it does have a lot of funny moments. Actually, the 90% of the film is funny. It's just that first 10 minutes that hits you so damn fucking hard. And every time he remembers her with the picture of Ellie, But yeah. Anyways, this is the end of the episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for enjoying. However you were enjoying it, whether it was as an audio format or as a video format. Doesn't matter. It's a radio show, so it can be enjoyed either way. Whether you were just here for the music or here for the information of Pixar, it always makes us cry, So that's the thing. These are the 15 best films that makes us cry. And like the first article I read said, if it makes you cry, yes, it's good. Or any emotion. If it makes you feel any emotion, it makes you connect with the characters in any shape or form, then yes, it's a great film. If it doesn't make you connect with the characters or anything along those lines, you can connect with the story, sure, but if you don't connect with the characters themselves, if you just connect with the story, it's mediocre. If you connect with the characters and the story, it's good, excellent. But if you don't connect with anything, but you still enjoyed it as a flick, as a summer flick, then it's all right. Whatever, So anyways, thanks for listening, and thanks for watching, and thanks for being here. I'll catch you on the flip side. Adios, amigos. I'll be back tomorrow with some music. I'll be performing with my synths, my drum machines, my drums. I'll be DJing my original music with effects and whatnot. So we're gonna be having a lot of fun with all this stuff, So let's get it. Let's find someone to raid, and from there we're gonna go and move on with life, because we gotta understand that life has a cycle. We start, we finish, we start, we finish. It's always a routine, a cycle. You can break the routine every now and then, but we always go back to it because we need to have a schedule. That's how life works. That's why people in the early times invented the sun clock, and then they invented the regular number clock system. Then they invented the watch, because we needed to find a way to schedule ourselves to have an organization, to know that something starts and then it ends. That's how life is. So let's go listen to the outro, and we'll be finding someone to raid, so don't go anywhere. This was the Ander Van Zar podcast. If you have any thoughts or any messages that you want to leave me, go check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Or my website, www.andervansart.com. And I'll catch you on the flip side.
When you listen to Andrew Van Zark, you listen with power. Now you're listening with power. Andrew Van Zark. Stream on every major music platform. Power to the music.
Alright, so let's go find someone to raid. Let's see who's available. We have Bob Ross, we got Dallas Review, we got Ash, we got Websunusu. It's a weather and news show from Japan. We got Your Tendencies singing to streamers. We got Heavenly Arena. It's a nice female singer. We got David Frank drums. No Hit Jerome. And Bliss. Let's go for No Hit Jerome. So let's go raid No Hit Jerome. So thank you for being here, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Sayonara. Bye.